Good. Hello, Internet. Sorry, give us a moment. We're stabilizing things. Alright. Alright, troubleshooters. What do we got?
Oh man, well, I just had my water tested. I feel like these numbers. I live right up the street.
Alright,
so this is the local water rate here?
Yeah.
Something's messed up there.
What is this? Oh, you had your water test here? Alright.
You ever seen levels this high and then levels that low? So if I
No, that seems weird.
I mean, I did the hardest 3 times. And
Now this is a brand new filter, which is why I brought it in. But I let it run, I don't know, probably 10 gallons or so of water.
Sulfate, I couldn't determine between 0 and 50.
It's a Brita filter for under the sink, hard carbon.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, like I said, I ran a couple of these a couple times, so it must not like my reagents are going bad or something like that.
Hardness and calcium hardness, I mean, that's 160 and stuff. From my understanding of what you know, and my problem with water is like my worst subject.
I'm out of here.
Alright, it really is. Do me a favor. Send me these numbers, and I'll see if I can get Palmer.
We know some guys that get water.
Or at least somebody could say that one reading is so off,
Right.
and I can do that.
Well, no, and like I said, I know the man who designed the kit, so.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Is that did John already do? Oh, it is. I'm brewing tomorrow, and typically, you know, like just as a brewing water. He seems to think this is kind of funny, so I might just go back to my old filter.
Yeah, I wouldn't even worry about the filter so much. Just do what you've done in the past with your water.
Yeah.
You know, so you have like that sort of stability reservation and see what happens.
I could just use some. But I mean, a lot of that's gonna. I will have to use my prior results from 6 months ago.
I don't know what the hell. I knew you were pointing at me. I didn't know what you were trying to say. Reservation. No, I should have figured that.
See if that has any.
And I just pretend I'm using water from 6 months ago with all
Just to see. And then some of those numbers I'll get you on.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So do we not have any beer?
Apparently there's no beer.
Oh, there's no
beer drinkers, but no beer.
There's no beer for Troubleshooter's Corner. What the hell?
Okay, then I got a
And low battery.
question.
All right.
This is great. Why do I never get a hot break or cold break?
Why don't you get a break?
I know. If I use extract, I do. So it's in my mash process. But for my mash, I never get a hot break.
Are you boiling the water? I
Oh, that's weird.
I was gonna say first things first. Obviously, your break isn't in the mash, but you already know that. So, like, same boil strength, everything else, and you never see
never see a hot break.
You put hops in?
I remember Diane saying that she didn't either. Of course,
I would
never brewed with her.
I would say check your calcium.
Check the what?
Calcium. The calcium levels of your water.
I use RO water and I add calcium sulfate and calcium chloride.
Okay. Because most of the time I think with that, I mean, it's a coagulation issue, right? And the coagulation is driven by pH, it's driven by calcium levels, and it's driven by
and I also add
viscosity.
Are you adding no foam or anything like that?
Oh, I get foam.
No, are you adding no foam or anything? A lot of people add no foam and doping and stuff like that.
But I do add lactic acid to get it down to the 5.2.
That's your mash though.
No.
You acidify the boil as well?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Why through the sparge?
All right, if you're acidifying the sparge, that's fine. I wouldn't acidify the boil can itself because you're going to get a pH change in your boil.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So.
But you're not going to get a hot break in the mash.
But
well, no.
I mean, here, dumb experiment time. Don't acidify your sparge water next time. Just let your sparge water ride, right?
And let the tannins flow in, right?
And see what happens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, basically like just filter your sparge water. Don't pH adjust it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then do your boil and see if you get a break. Because then what you can tell is you can tell whether or not it's pH related.
What kind of beer are you making, first of all?
This is going on for years, so any beer, any kind of beer.
Big beer, small beer, hoppy beer, doesn't matter.
Right. No hoppy beers. No, give me a break.
Start with not adjusting the pH.
Okay.
Because in the sparge water, because I'd be curious to see if that has an impact on the boil quality, and that could actually tell you something.
But although if I use an extract, I do get a break.
Well, but when you have an extract,
I
you're not.
I still acidify the water.
You're still acidifying your spark.
Not that, well, no, there's no spark, but I mean,
Right.
the boiled water, right.
But you
Extract doesn't usually require massive water adjustments, but that's just.
are you using a lot of hops or not a lot of hops?
No,
Well, that might be part of it.
I'm not a hophead.
So you might be using very little hop.
Hops won't affect the break. The break is all essentially albumin. Yeah, so it's the sheeting and
And would
the
that have
sheeting.
an effect on the beer? I mean, is it causing some downstream problems?
It might cause clarity and stability issues.
No, and I don't really have an issue with that. Of course, I use either, what the hell, the two things, the one with the sodium pellets, Whirlflox, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It clears it.
yeah, but you may still have, if there's additional protein in the beer, you know, because it hasn't crashed out or hasn't been formed into sheets, then you may still see an issue where you either have some sort of long-term clarity or some sort of long-term stability issue because protein degrades over time.
So the protein is still in there, it just hasn't.
That would be my guess.
Precipitated out,
Otherwise, unless
You must
magic
be
has
walking
caused
away
it to
after
go.
you drop it in.
Using Whirlflox, it settles out to the bottom, and you've had some break.
Oh, I get true down there, but
But the same way, like, even with Whirlflox, you would still expect to see with an all grain beer.
But
You would still expect to see in your boil kettle like egg freedom.
Have you? Okay, so what we do sometimes is after it's been boiling for a period of time, before the hops go in, is just kill the flame for several minutes so the wort cools somewhat, and then when you turn it back on again, because all that coagulation has happened as it cools off. When it's hot, things separate. When it cools just a little bit, they coagulate, and then the heat again when the boiling starts to bring it all up to the top, which then can be skimmed off and returns. I don't know, is that automatic for people?
Well, and like one of the things that if you look at like BJ's used to do this all the time, but everyone else, instead of doing like wort skimming, like getting in there and trying to skim off the top of the wort, what they would literally do is turn the boil kettle on, bring it up to a boil, start getting that going, kill the boil, let the beer cool a little bit, pull it back up to a boil, and do that like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And then that would cause enough of protein degradation that it would
Settle out, and then it stays in the bottom. I mean, this is something that Beanie does obsessively. He'll spend all day when you're brewing with him.
You got some action here, Drew. Some takers.
Dropping and up and down.
Hi, you have beer?
I do.
Jeremy's got some.
We're on for beer. All right.
This is just like a ruse. You need to get people to pour beer.
We have one right
Here.
here.
I don't want to get it on the computer.
Right here. I was gonna say, and my keys are not in my pocket.
Oh.
It's a gathering of homebrewers. There have to be multiple.
Multiple.
All right, and so what do we have?
American Brown Ale.
American Brown Ale. And we're concerned about the American Brown Ale?
Not particularly. I just
You just want a reaction?
What does your lady think of it?
I was asking
That's
if
the
she
only
wanted
thing that
to-
matters.
That's the only thing that matters.
If she's happy, the world's good, man.
Somebody was washing their hands. Smell the soap. All right, and so were you going for like? Did you have a particular brown ale in mind, or were you just?
I was going off recipe, but I do. I mean, I like more European brown ales, but I've made this recipe before, and I really like the balance of the hop and the malt together. I do like the full body.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, the first thing, the hop aroma smells more American, than European. But the other thing I'm noticing with it, I think the 4 palate is great. You got your toast notes, you got some caramel notes, and you got kind of those brown bread notes, for lack of a better way to put it. A little bit of hop character to it without being overpowering. I think where the beer starts to fall apart is when you get to the finish. because what you're getting with fish is actually a fairly large amount of sweetness, fairly large sugar, at least I am.
I also like to see a little change in the water.
Okay.
It would help a lot.
What would you recommend change? Because I didn't do any mineral additions. I used RO.
I know what I would. He's more of a water guy than I am, but yeah.
Well, for brown, I would almost always go fluoride, because you want to emphasize the malt,
Okay.
as opposed to hop. The problem is that if you do chloride, you're going to emphasize the malt, which is also going to kind of back up the sweet character. So most of what I'm getting as a sweet character in here is not like residual complex sugar. It's more like leftover powder sugar, right? And it's more of a bottled sugar. You guys get this?
This is well received, so I mean.
What did this finish at? What did you start at? When did you finish at?
This one is the right size, but it's too short. So,
It's not a recipe.
And this is definitely the right way.
Yeah.
Let me go take a look. Have something back. And I can't remember, you wanted something with or without the curve? Was the curve part of your decision?
what's that?
Shucks, I don't think I have it with me.
You're still
I don't have it.
some guys not want a curve in their can or something.
Well, I mean, it has
No, I want it
plenty of-
straight.
Straight, okay.
plenty of bubble. But I mean, there's clarity in it, right? I mean, there's clarity issue that it still has. But whatever.
Fermented in a glass.
Plastic bucket, primary, and then a glass cardboard.
So where are you keeping the bucket?
I try and keep it in the coldest part of my living room, which is
What
far away
temperature
from
did you ferment this at? Pitch at and ferment this at?
I pitched at 75. It stayed around 65 to 70.
And how did you get it to 70? You got it to 75.
It's a wort chiller.
For what chiller?
Well, all right, so first thing that I will always tell anybody with a wort chiller is get it lower. There is you will rarely have a problem of getting your beer too cold on initial pitch, whereas you will have problems with the beer being too warm on initial pitch.
Got it.
But having said that, I don't think that's an issue here. Your yeast characters are well within line. They're restrained. Again, I just keep coming back to the fact that I think the finish is too sweet for me. Because I mean, everything else about this beer seems just fine. I'm curious. So did you say what the final gravity was before you bought it?
No, I don't remember. Well, did it take me? I think it was at 1020.
1020. All right. See, so
That's why it's sweet.
That's why it's sweet. Because your starting gravity was up in the 1060 area, or
Up to 65.
Probably, yeah.
so ideally with 1065, you'd want to see this come down more around to 1015, 1014 area. And so what I'm guessing that you're getting is, I guess a good portion of the carbonation that you have here is from the leftover malt sugar. And the simple sugar that we still have here is the leftover bottling sugar. So that's my big advice is I would make sure that you get down to a lower terminal before you go into the bottle, because I think that would help you avoid it. Because I mean, otherwise, everything else that's in here seems dead on. I mean, like you can play around with water chemistry, a little chloride if you want some more malt. If you want a little bit of harder character, get either some carbon or some sulfate in there. But I think at that point you're starting to play with sort of adjustment. Here, I think the first thing is get that gravity down first, so you get to a dry finish. So, but otherwise, I mean, I think everything else.
Yeah.
So could he just let
But
the
I
bottles
will
like
tell-
age 6 months for more bottle attenuation?
Well, okay, that's your other problem. If you still have all this simple sugar in here, and I'm right about this flavor, you said you put this in on Christmas Eve,
Yeah.
and then storing the bottles cold.
Room temperature, not really cold. Not in the fridge. No.
They'll still ferment if you have it.
I'd be curious because over time, if there's still a lot of simple sugar and the yeast are healthy enough, even once they're in the bottle, they will keep chewing away the sugars. Yay. Problem is when they're under cap, they turn the sugars into carbonation.
Right, pressure.
And unfortunately with these bottles, it's rare that the failure is attached. The failure tends to be more in the bottle itself, and that tends to be bad. So I would keep them in a box and keep them cool. And pay attention to what your carbonation levels are and see if they change over time.
Well, no, I think I only have one more bottle of this.
Okay, then you're fine.
There's a couple of other things as the summer's coming up, and obviously, as Drew pointed out today, it's almost summer. Don't be so aggressive to pitch your yeast into hot work. Get your work. You put it in the fridge. Cool it down. You're not going to hurt it. Put your yeast in after you've done a starter. Then reoxygenate. Then pitch your yeast. And get away from plastic, unless it's brand new plastic or something.
I'm gonna go with that.
The yeast and the temperature are important.
Plastic is fine as long as you take care of it and you're not trying to age it for a long time. And in a lot of ways, plastic's preferable than the possibly vein lacerating version of glass. But again, I think we know what the issue is with this one. It's just the sweetness with your bottling. Right, do we have any more? Or
That was the dozen of beer I brought.
you going?
I got one. It's not mine.
Cedric has a beer.
It's not mine. But
Oh, okay. Well, shit. I was gonna say.
I'm brewing.
Where's my O-Fest?
We'll do that in March, right?
Yeah.
I was about to be floored by Cedric bringing a beer.
Yeah, it's cold now.
Let's see. But no. Good how many batches in are you on here?
This is my 7th one I made.
How you doing? Fine.
Yeah. This is a rye IPA.
Right. Yay. Who's the responsible party?
A man by the name of Steve Nagengast and his wife.
All right.
He's not, pushing him to come to the meeting, but he's not being able to do so yet.
Big raspy hop character to it. Caramel. A little bit of fruitiness, but it seems to be more of the hop fruitiness than.
Do you know the rye percentage on the grape?
I need mine.
Of course.
Don't worry about yours.
Don't worry about it. That's Lion's choice.
That's hot.
Yeah.
It's got the hops.
Yes, it does.
Anybody else?
Yeah, it's got the thing going.
Well, all right. So what we got going on here? I mean, obviously, first things first. We've got fruity hop character to it. Definite caramel note in the nose. There's a little,
smells sort of hop flavor.
well, there's a little bit of a nail polish sort of solidy type thing that's usually used on.
You know what hops he used?
Flavor definitely has a little bit of yeast ester to it, like sort of rusty red apple type yeast ester from warm fermentation or low fermentation. We come down to, hey, there's a ton of bitterness in this. So, you know, we got that good sort of strong, like a little bit of I almost want to say Chinooki type, you know, rasp across the tongue type bitterness. And then, again, some more of that nail polish remover, a little bit of like ethyl acetate, and then off into what's actually a fairly dry finish and, you know, goes away fairly well.
Except for that, it would be a good beer.
I think, yeah, it's mostly just the off fermentation character. A little bit too warm in the fermentation and a little bit of your nail polish remover. What do you guys think?
Well, actually, I wanted to ask about that because I did a blonde recently with why yeast is Kolsch yeast, and for Marshall Shot, actually, you recommended fermenting around like 58.
Yep.
So one of the things that I run into is just like, is it like ambient temperature? Is it like temperature? Because I'm using a pint bottle basically full of water that I have the little pearls dropped into, or actually using a thermal well into my carpool.
Right.
So what would give like the best and most accurate reading? Because either way, it's
Most accurate would be the
thermal well.
Second most accurate would be to take your thermometer probe and slap it against the side of your fermentation vessel and insulate it with like, you know, some sort of foam and just tape it in place.
Okay.
It's not going to be as accurate, but it's, you know, close enough. The next best thing is to essentially go, okay, look at your fermentation and go, it's super active. I'm going to guess that is the beer is going to be 7 to 12 degrees warmer than the air temperature, and adjust accordingly.
Okay.
Which is actually what I do a lot of times.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because I mean, you know, a lot of times I just don't have the gumption to go. Like I get done with the brew day, I'm like, oh, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Are you in a refrigerator, a cooler, or are you just in a bucket? Or?
Yeah, no. I have a refrigerator right now, and I have one of these Johnson controllers that I'm trying to figure out how to set it up to where I have a heater and a cooler. Because like, for the
Speak to this guy right here.
Is it a two-stage?
It's a single stage right now, and so I'm either gonna have to like actually buy a black box and build my own from the ground.
Well,
You can build when there's like on Amazon. There's these controllers that sell for about $18.
Yeah.
well, that's the black box. The other one,
work really well.
the other one, of course, also look at
has
is,
them too.
well,
Yeah.
and the other one to also look at now is the last 5 months or so, Inkbird has come out with their two-stage controllers.
Okay.
They're fairly cheap, but the problem with the Inkbirds, from what I understand of looking at people's reactions to them online, you have to make sure with the Inkbirds that you go and you look at like, okay, I've dialed in 60 degrees, what is the temperature measuring? Because some of the Inkbirds seem to drift off that set point.
Really?
Yeah, so make sure you do that, and if you buy one of, but the Inkbirds had the advantage, like the STC 1000s or whatever they're called. Yeah, you have to wire them yourself. Whatever, it's not hard wiring. You have to wire them yourself, and then they're great, but I think they're like $18, $20 plus a project box.
Plus the project box. It's probably, I don't know, $45 or so to build out that box.
Yeah.
Right.
You have an AC on top with 2 outlets, one hot, one cold.
And the Inkbirds, the two-stage Inkbirds, are about the same cost as well. Maybe actually slightly cheaper.
So, well, for like the off flavors that you detected here, you said one of them is partially due to like fermentation temperatures, and would another one possibly due to oxygenation of the wort? Like, how would you separate those two?
I think one is probably not enough yeast.
Yeah, yeast quality.
And under pitch or under vital yeast.
Oh.
And then the other one I would say is due to too warm a fermentation.
Got it.
So usually I would say like esters, a lot of esters are from the fermentation temperature. A lot of times if I'm getting that ethyl acetate type here, it's from a yeast health issue. Normally not enough yeast. So, there you go.
Do you do starters?
Yeah. So I did a big ass starter for the Kolsch, with the Kolsch yeast, with the Kolsch yeast, just because the fermentation temperature is going to be lower. So I did above, in between the ale and lager, recommended starter size.
Where do you live?
Here, West Coast.
You should hook up with this guy. He's one of the best brewers in the planet.
All right.
Honestly. He brews all the time, and he's my mentor. He's amazing.
Want to brew?
Sure.
He brews all every week. What do you mean does he want to
I'm
brew?
brewing next Saturday. I live in Warren Hills.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Seriously, he will take you light years ahead of where you are.
All right, yeah.
I did not get it.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. I mean,
Let me write it down.
you can have somebody help.
So,
Here,
I
actually,
have a follow-up question you said about the whole... John, I have a follow-up question you asked. You said that it's better to pitch way cooler. So, would you like let it... What would you do? Would you just pitch warm immediately, or would you pitch cool the next day?
I might go 12 to 24 hours. But before I pitch, it's going to be depending on what I'm doing.
Sorry guys, we're having to add a battery pack because we're almost out of juice.
Let it cool down, and I'll oxygenate before I pitch, and then I'll re-oxygenate within 8 hours, 8 hours.
About 65 degrees.
Yeah, but you're not worried about infection if you're not pitching like...
Why would I have infection? No.
All right. More beer.
You oxygenate before you pitch.
Catch it long as it's cool as best possible. You can do it 24 hours.
Then you're next.
I know when the cycle changed, I jumped it.
All right. Guys, brewer pouring beer. All right, what do we have?
Pale ale.
Pale ale? And are we worried about something, or like, do you have questions about something in particular, or you just want an honest evaluation?
I want an honest evaluation. I did something off, but I want to see what you guys think.
All right, cool.
Given the option, I would just pitch on the warm side.
Yeah, you're gonna get a beer.
Yeah.
I said it smells like mangoes and pineapples. What's the style? Pale ale. What's up?
They'll be problems will be too happy. They're producing too quickly. They can throw off a lot of they throw off a lot of off flavor because
very much in like that West Coast sessionable IPA pale ale category.
Yeah, I'm curious what hops.
Citra is definitely one of them.
Yeah. What hops do you well?
Let's see. So they keep reproducing.
Citra, Mosaic, Plenty on the recipe. I was making a session IPA. I took my session IPA, which is around 4.5%, and I brought it up a little higher. And then I realized I did some things wrong. I think in the malt.
So here, one of the things I obviously, Citra and Mosaic are like the two obvious things that are in here. Getting a smoky character in here. And I don't know if that's like something got scorched, or if there's something going on in the yeast, or what, or if I'm just confusing a hop phenol for smoke, which can also happen.
It reminds me of one of those like pepper beers.
Do you know the IBUs? There is a smoky kind of thing
around. I think it's around like 80. I took the recipe off my phone.
Maybe the hop load's a little high.
I'd probably guess it's a hop phenol that my brain isn't going, oh, it's smoky.
Yeah.
Because my first comment to Craig was, when he asked what style it was, I said, well, it's kind of a West Coast session IPA-ish thing.
Yeah.
The fruity hops.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, so you're saying that you think you did something wrong with the malt character, and the problem is that at the 80 IBUs that you have in here, or however many that you actually got into the kettle, it's hard to get anything down below that.
Okay.
So you have a sufficiently powerful hop character that is hiding a lot else going on. And like I said, I get a smoky phenol, but I would suspect that that's a hop phenol that I'm discovering. Can I get a little bit more?
Yeah.
You get some diacetyl, but it's a nice mouth. It's a big mouthfeel for this.
I accidentally put too much carafoam in there, I think. I put 3 pounds in.
Well, so carafoam is just the German carafils.
Yeah.
So, which gives you that little bit of head stand. I'm suspecting your haze is probably hop, because...
Yeah, it was clear, and then I hop brandled it with an ounce of Mosaic, and I've got...
okay, so in other words, you're just really trying to screw with everybody.
Yeah.
You didn't do a diacetyl rest on this, though.
No. I did rest.
It's nail strain.
Yeah.
So just nail strain, right?
I'm sorry?
You used nail strain on
It's
this?
007.
So dry English?
Yeah.
So
and this was the first generation. I started it up, and this is the first generation I've used this yeast. I did rest it for like 3 or 4 days before I cold crashed it for
and the starting gravity is like in the 1050s or something?
Yeah, I think it was around 1055.
When you say you rested it, what does that mean? Did you bring it up?
Yeah, I brought it up. I started it like probably around 66 for this, and I brought it up a couple days into 68, and then I finished it out right around 70, let it sit there for about 3 days with no
brought it up a little
activity. Right now, the problem is it's so cold, I can't get it up hotter. Even though I opened the fridge and turned it off.
The make drugs for that. Sorry, I have to go for the obvious wiener joke. All right, now when you said you were worried about the carafoam, like you used too much carafoam, like how much carafoam did you end up using, like as percentage wise?
It was around 14%, somewhere around in there. So what
and
didn't
then,
seem like it was
like
going to
no
be
other carafoam malts in it, or just
no. It's pretty much 2/3 of it is of the base is 2-row, 1/3 is Golden Promise, and then I accidentally threw in a pound of Carabiner, which was going to be for another beer. I mixed the bags up, and then there was no wheat in this one. Usually I use wheat, and I didn't have any, so I used
the carafoam and the caravan. You're not going to do it. No, I mean, here's the thing, actually. I think with the amount of hop character you have in here, that accidental addition of carafoam and caravan actually kind of helps you. Because I think if you didn't have the carafoam and you didn't have the caravan in there, this would basically be like, hi, hops.
Yeah. Oh, there's also a couple pounds of Munich in here. 2 pounds of Munich.
So I want to go back to what Drew pointed out, because I absolutely get it in the finish, I get it in my nose, and that's that smokiness. Mm-hmm. Where do you think this is coming from? Because it's there.
Yeah, for me, I know people love Mosaic and Galaxy, but with both Mosaic and Galaxy, I always get a little bit of a smoky note. Mosaic tends to be a bit cleaner. Galaxy to me always tastes like same rotten fruit that somebody is exposed to a campfire.
Maybe it's the Galaxy.
Well, but you didn't use Galaxy in this one, you used Mosaic, right?
No, I have another one with Galaxy right over here.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, Galaxy, got it right here.
Yeah. Galaxy is always like overripe passion fruit mixed with a smoke, at least to my taste, which is the reason why you don't see me doing a lot of Galaxy beers.
This one.
That's why I like
No, but again, I think, ironically,
Yes.
your Carafoam accent actually ended up helping you.
I usually would use like a pound less. And
Yeah,
I
but I don't think it's bad. I mean,
oh, cool. I wish I could.
like I said, literally, I think it's helped you because it helps buffer some more of that 80 IBU that you have there. Because I mean, that beer has.
I like that.
The reason why I didn't put it just 2 row is because I want to have the taste of malt in there, and I'm putting in a lot of hops, so I'm trying to get the malt in there too.
My usual IPA-ish or hoppy-ish malt schedule is 2 row, Mo, and then something either like a Munich or a caramel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I want that little extra oomph to the base malt.
He has a great double IPA and IPA. He uses Marisana, a little bit of Marisana for this 2 too, and that adds a little bit of.
But when I do my grain bill, it's literally like half 2 row, half Mo. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've been using the Golden Promise instead of the Marisada. It's a little bit sweeter.
yeah, I mean, effectively it's the Scottish Maris, but
Yeah.
and hey, if it's not Scottish, it's crap.
This one is kind of like the big brother of the other one, but I use a little bit different hops. Citra, Galaxy, Simpel, and some Chinook in there.
By the way, this is fantastic. I was up north watching this a couple times. I go, oh my god, this is fantastic.
I just love the fact that it's like simple video sharing technology.
No,
It's rock and roll.
It works so great. I'm sitting at Surf Brewery, and he's been hit the side, and we're all watching this. It's great.
Yeah, the one comment.
This just got kegged out 2 days ago.
Couple comments I've received from people watching the stream is, hey, can you not swear as much?
An ounce Amarillo and an ounce Simcoe.
That's right.
Well, that wouldn't be you. That'd be Jersey or me or
Nope,
something.
No.
About 20 minutes or so, I
Apparently.
pushed it through the 5-gallon keg. Actually, I ran 10 gallons.
Kinda hard.
2 ounces in the Randall.
So now, can I ask, when you're saying the Randall, did you actually like Randall from keg to keg?
Yeah, I immediately kegged it, and then I.
The man!
Yeah,
I've been trying to get people to do this technique for like years because I think it's cool.
I've been doing that right when I would pull it off the yeast, I would put it right out the keg, transfer it through the hopper into another one. But I was doing it with a filter, and I put the pellet hops in there. I finally built what you suggested, which is the stainless steel tubing that I drilled out, so I can actually just put the floral hops in there. Push it that way. I pulled up your article to find the details on that.
No, well, because the Randalls are great, but I mean, like Randalls, the way that we typically use them as homebrewers and everything, are sort of these special occasion, tools that are sort of useful.
Serving vessels.
Yeah, and I mean, they're great, but like completely thinking like the Sierra Nevada torpedoes are actually. I'm reading a book right now on Australian historical Australian brewing. It's a self-published book called Bronze Brews, and the author Peter Sunders, he talks in the book about how like in 1840, 1850s Australia, they were using a technique very similar to the torpedo, or very similar to this idea of doing the pre-serving, post-paying, Randall. Now, obviously here with the Galaxy, I'm getting that big sort of passion fruit, mango, smoky note. But at least this version, at least this version doesn't of Galaxy doesn't have the I'm halfway to rotten passion fruit character that I get a lot of Galaxy beers. It's just runs like that.
You do have a touch still of the diacetyl. Very touch, not as much as the other one.
This is the second generation of that same yeast. So the first beer started it up after the starter record, and then I threw this one up.
And you said this was bigger, and obviously more malt because of the orangey character.
It's essentially, it's the same, almost the same proportions. A little bit less Golden Promise, a little less. Instead of the Carafoam, I used a couple pounds of wheat in there. There's a pound of English Crystal 55 for some color. I think 2 pounds of Munich.
I'm not getting the big smoky finish on this one like I had on the other one. What's the ABV?
This one, the other one was like 5.3, and this one's like 6.3. This one finished out a little higher. I think it finished at like 10.13, and I wanted to finish around 10.11.
What was the OG on this?
Let me check.
It's got a big mouth.
65 probably.
It has a lot of
66.
It has some of that sweetness in the finish.
On this here, I don't think the sweetness is so much malt sweetness. I think what we're getting is because the hops are so fruity, yeah, with all that passion fruit and mango and everything else. It's like I say every month, you know, it's like human perception is kind of a strange creature. Yeah, we are so easily led. Yeah, even with, I do think there is some residual sweetness. Don't get me wrong about that. But I think that combined with all those fruit characters is reinforcing.
Well, I've noticed since I put this in the keg on Friday afternoon, every day it's completely changed. Before it was just, there's too much hop and it almost tastes a little bit vegetal from the dry hopper. It just tastes like I was tasting flower hops. And that's been dropping off and it's been kind of settling in and the bitterness is starting to come out a little bit. Before it was almost muted by so much of the fruitiness.
The oil.
Yeah, a month from now, probably will even just about right because the hops drop out pretty rapidly.
Yeah, in a few weeks, I think this beer is going to be like right on.
I would be curious to see what it's like in a few weeks. Like if you have the ability to hold on to a sample for the next meeting.
I have 10 gallons of it, so I got that ability.
All right, so I would totally bring this.
We're going to reconvene the meeting in 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes.
I'm going to bottle some up this week when I bottle for a competition. So I'm going to. I usually bring some bombers, and every month I'll pop one out and see how it is.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd really be curious to see what this is like in a month. Because
I'd like to see
this is pretty good right now. I think it would be really nifty in about a month.
sea hops or something, and then go off to these other hops to see what you're more traditional.
For the next recipe.
Yeah, I'd like to see more traditional ideas than your double ideas.
So hopefully next month I'll have my Rio sizzling that's running right now at home.
Not necessarily Chinook in the bitter end, but
There's Chinook in this one. The one I just did on Friday, there's Columbus and Cascade.
Well, because we're going up east for next week, so Bruce has
A little bit of Amarillo.
We're going to do
Sriracha Ace.
Segula sizzle.
What else did
We're going to do a almond and orange, vanilla, and lemon.
but I agree with Drew with his choice of hops, the Galaxy, and Mosaic and stuff. Personally, for me, Mosaic,
Planning to clone next
it's got the
Saturday.
signature
So I'll
that
be
is kind of
bringing down
milky to me
the
anyway, and
copy
I'm
of
not
Alaska.
crazy about it. It came out, yeah, the first Mosaic I ever had about 4 years ago or so, and everybody started using it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I would totally be curious to see where this goes in the next month. But I don't think there's anything bad going on here, and you've got a good crop of Galaxy. So.
This is better than the first one.
All right. Do we have any other comments about the beer?
It's tasty. You're really close on this.
All right. We have one more.
This one was
this is my first ever beer ever.
Okay. Let me go get a glass rinse real quick, because that's a big hop charge, and I'm guessing that's not going to have the same hop charge. Oh. Well, thank you, Sean. Remember, boys and girls, it's important to get the hops out of your glass before you have somebody else's beer.
And I'm worried about overcarbonation. Let me open it outside just in case.
He was crying the blues to me yesterday.
At home it didn't work, but like here I opened
The wine
one
industry.
and it rolled over.
What's happened this year with the crops? The fruit.
We have to wait because apparently carbonation may go everywhere. Well, I said potentially. Hey, bug.
Yeah, we got a gusher.
Do we?
Yeah.
Alright, so apparently we have FOMO.
I think we had like 10 or
Did you
11
see
people
first
take the
beer?
test.
I'll pick it up for you. There you go.
My first beer was
I think we had like 10 or 11 people take the meat certification test. It's interesting. It's exciting.
The first one is pretty good. It's the second one.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, my first beer was fantastic. I was a proud papa of that thing. Second beer sucked. Because the second beer I hadn't quite figured out how to clean the
that cleaning part.
Yeah. And so the second beer only became useful for soaking beans.
Yes, it's kind of a
So, real quick, everybody, that was a full bottle when it was open.
Was that bottle?
It's now down here.
Yeah,
Is that bottle conditioned?
Yeah, the bottle's conditioned. But take this one. Hold on one second. Yeah. But at home, I opened it and it didn't do that to me.
All right, so
At home, it was.
So you carbonated in the bottle.
At home, I did the same thing, and it opened just fine. But when I opened one here, for some reason, it exploded. So
All right, so what were you going for with the beer?
it was just the 1 gallon Brooklyn Brewery, American Pale Ale can. I just followed instructions and did what I could do with it. I didn't,
American Pale Ale.
That's what it said on the box. That's what it said on the box.
If you'd asked me, I would have said this is like a ginger whip.
Maybe I didn't ferment properly or whatnot. I didn't control temperature very well. That's my first time. I didn't really know how.
This is always going to be a learning process, no matter who you are. So it's all good.
Well, particularly with those 1 gallon kits, I love the 1 gallon kits for the way they open things up for everybody. But the problem is also like the 1 gallon kits offer sort of this. They offer this promise of easy brewing, and what it does is it tends to make people sort of it makes it harder for people to focus on getting sort of fun.
Help me! I'm here. I want to start with the 5 gallon kit today and just expand from there.
So, like I said, I don't know if it's a function of the kit or a function of what you done did with the kit. But you say American Pale Ale to me, I don't get American Pale Ale anywhere near this. I literally, like, if you told me, hey, what is this? I would have said this was like a ginger infused whip beer. So obviously you have a lot of yeast, haze, your bottle's exploded. Walk us through fermentation and everything that you just did.
I basically just boiled. I followed the instructions. I did. I don't remember. I don't remember the exact amount of water. I think it was like 100. It was like 6 quarts of water, whatever. And I boiled the what is it? The barley? It was a bag to mash, whatever the mash was. Yeah, grains.
So I give you specialty grains.
Yeah, specialty grains. Like 170 degrees. I brought it to 170 degrees with the thermometer. Put it in there. I let it, do it. I followed the instructions. I don't remember exactly. And then once it was done, I had my wort at the bottom, and then I took out my mash, and then I boiled another thing of water, and I strained it through. And
so a fairly standard grain mash, or steaming grains with extract. Because
what I didn't do though is when I pitched my yeast, I didn't shake it.
I wouldn't worry about that. You have more than enough yeast in there for what you've done. Yeah, I mean, what's strange is, like I said, I don't know anything about the kit, right? So I can't talk to the quality of the kit. But
ever heard of the Brooklyn Brewery kit?
Yeah, I know the company. I just don't know the kit. Okay. So, like, I don't want to disparage anything about the kit because I don't know if there's anything wrong with the kit. Or, yeah, I know there are people out there who get successfully involved with the brewing hobby using those kits. You have a lot of yeast. I'm guessing from the fact that your bottles exploded out there when you opened it. When you went to go bottle, you weren't done fermenting. That's always
that's what but it wasn't bubbling at all anymore.
Bubbles lie.
Okay.
Bubbles lie all the time.
The airlock was just like static. There was nothing going on. So
the best thing to do is measure.
Yeah, and this is one of the problems with being a 1 gallon batch size is that you don't have a lot of room to measure. Yeah. So the biggest problem is, so let's say that you're in a carboy or something, or a bottle, right? Yeah. We'll borrow this airlock real quick.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
So, let's say you're in a carboy represented by this 22 ounce bottle, and this thing fits down in here. The problem is, unless that seal between this and the bottle is super, super tight, you're not going to see any activity. So that's why we always recommend taking gravity, because gravity is the only way that you'll know for certain. Now, obviously, in a 1 gallon batch, you don't have that much to take the gravity sample. So this is why we always say don't depend upon bubbles. Bubbles lie. Because also sometimes you're still seeing activity, or you still have activity going on, where you're not necessarily generating enough CO2 to generate a full bubble that's happening. You're generating partial pressure CO2. Things are, CO2 may be diffusing into the solution. CO2 may be slowly diffusing out of the airlock. Yeah, so bubblers lie. I mean, they're fantastic to watch and they're wonderful to sniff. But would totally say, because your beer gushed like that, you probably went into the bottle with too much residual gravity. So that would be the first thing I'd say. So moving up to 5 gallons will give you that advantage, is that you can actually measure your gravity without going, I've just wasted a whole bottle of beer, and now like one twelfth of my work is gone.
I didn't make enough beer, and to waste 80% of it is not. But like I said, at home, I opened one at home yesterday, and it didn't do that. I opened one home the day before, and it didn't do that.
How did it taste?
It tasted okay. It tasted like a pale. I mean, to me, when I taste an IPA, those are a little bit hoppy to me, or I don't know, they're a little strong. I'm not a big fan of those, but that's kind of what it tasted like.
All right. Well, because here's one of the other problems. Like when we're at our particular scale, you'll have different, unless you're really vigilant about like the sugar syrup going into everything. Because I assume you used like a sugar.
I use those little I bought a bag of those little tablets and bought them in there.
Well, I hate those things because I never feel like I could trust them. But what you could have possibly run afoul of is, different levels of carbonation due to different bottle treatment. Like, the bottle cap may have been tighter in one bottle or less tight in another.
Potentially, yeah. I'm thinking that too.
So you have some of that going on. You just have all this sort of variability. What I would really say is the step up to the 5 gallon mark, it has a couple of advantages to it. I mean, it has a couple of disadvantages, right? Suddenly you need more equipment. You need the ability to be able to boil. You need to be able to actually be able to physically lift that, which is hard for a lot of.
I can carry a 5 gallon, no problem.
But it still is a thing. People do have to worry about it. But what it does give you the ability to do is it gives you the ability to be more seriously focused on your measurements. For some strange reason, there's a concentration difference that I've noticed between 1 gallon versus 5 gallons, where like 1 gallon is almost like something you're just going to. 5 gallons, you're like, I'm going to make sure this is right.
Yeah, because this is a little bigger investment.
Right. So, I'd be curious. Like I said, I think your primary culprit is just the sort of unstable gravity going into the bottles.
Okay. And that comes from letting it ferment a little bit longer.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it comes from stabilizing your gravity comes from letting it ferment longer.
What temperature wise? I mean, how do I in my house? I'm sorry, they're trying to reconvene. I'm sorry. How do I keep temperature? I was reading afterwards that I should maybe wrap it in blankets. I put it in my laundry room. My laundry room might get cold at nighttime, and then it might fluctuate. I live in a house, but it's kind of like an older house.
What I do, like some people use they may have a spare bathroom if they're lucky enough.
I have a spare bathroom.
Right.
Like
so
an
spare bathroom.
inside.
Yeah, inside like interior bathroom spare. They'll stick it in the tub. Okay. Right. And that helps. If you're really sort of feeling ambitious, stick in the tub. Plug the tub, fill it with cold water, right? And that also helps because one, the cold water will keep it down, but also that much water also serves as a temperature buffer. Okay. So water has an incredible heat density.
And your fermentation will generate heat, so it's good to have cold water around it to help keep it down.
Okay. And also, as your temperatures fluctuate over the course of the day, right? Your air temperature may be 30 degrees higher during the day. But it's only there for like 8 hours, and it doesn't raise the water bath temperature that whole.
I noticed that my house is built in the 40s, and 48, late 40s. It's a little 3-1 bath, but it's 1.5 bath. I don't have an extra one, but I noticed at nighttime it's not really insulated, so I'm waking up in the morning it's like 38 degrees. It's freezing, and then afternoon it's 60, 70.
Well, but even a water bath will help shield from that. What I use actually a lot out in my garage is big trash cans. Okay. Big trash can, put the fermenter in the middle, surround it with cold water. Okay. And then if you're being hyper vigilant about your temperature, you can go and you can freeze like 2-liter soda bottles, but drink the soda, pour out the soda, depending on your feelings on the soda, fill with water, or mostly fill with water.
I don't drink soda, just beer.
Yep. But throw those in the freezer, and I have either 2 to 4 base for every batch of beer I'm going at any period of time. Let those all freeze.
It's like big ice cubes in there. And
Yeah, basically, and then you drop those in the water bath.
Okay.
Let them chill. 12 hours later, you come, you pull the 2 that have been sitting in the water bath that are now thawed.
Yeah.
Put those back in the freezer. Take the other 2 and drop them in the water bath.
Okay.
And that, even that, will do a lot towards stabilizing it.
And in the dead of winter, even in California, an aquarium heater may help.
Okay. Well, when we're all done here, I know we got to meet more, but if you can help me build a kit, and I've got my cards, I'm ready to.
And there's a great book for beginning brewers called How to Brew by John Palmer.
Oh, there's an even better one right next to it called The Everything Home.
Well, yeah.
I don't know about that.
I don't know if I'd start with that one. When you go advanced, that's the one to buy.
No, that's experimental. All right.
That's us.
All right, guys. We're going back into our main meeting. That will be offline. But I hope you guys may have learned something today. If you did, great. If you didn't, well, what are you doing? Learn something. Have a good one, guys.